my host has just introduced me, and I'm here to just talk practically on poultry farming. I will have to share my own, because if you are talking about something and you have not done it before, then you don't have the experience. But because I am into poultry farming and other agricultural platform in terms of crops and others, so I could talk with the little experience I have in poultry for over going to 6-7 years now. I will be able to talk about the knowledge I have in poultry. So what do we look for in when we want to start poultry farming? Number one is interest. People think it's location. No, it is interest. Interest is number one. And what do I mean by interest? Interest is when you have that you love something to you love it. Not that you look at it as a job or a profession. That's when you have the first idea about poultry. If you don't love it, you cannot venture, no matter how well read you have gone through Googles, or people have sent seminar papers to you, or you have attended so many seminars. You will not be able to succeed in poultry if you don't love what poultry farming is. And that's number one. So what do I mean by the love itself? Because I need to put more emphasis on the love. It is you being able to carry love to be within that poultry sector. That's when people that are afraid, or they are not environmental friendly in terms of the waste management of poultry. If most especially if you are going for commercial, but if you are doing it with behind your house, maybe 2 or 3 or 10, then maybe you may not experience that environmental challenge that you may have when you are going commercial. But I'm talking majorly about commercial, because I started with a 5,236 beds, laying beds at a go. But I will also share my disadvantage of going for that large volume at a start with everyone. But when you love that thing, you will be able to not just being a part-time farmer, but an inclusive farmer. An inclusive farmer means you are there. You're not just employing somebody to do such a thing for you, but you participate in it. And that's when I say you love farming. You love poultry farming. It is quite different from you set up a shop and then you put somebody there and the person is now reporting to you. No, poultry is not like that. If you do poultry that way, then you will run out of business very quickly in poultry. So let me go into the theory of okay, how do I set up a poultry farming? Poultry farming, location is key. After love, location is the next one. Location of where you are going to start, especially people that are going to commercial farming. Because when you are talking about commercial, you are talking about between 500 and beyond, 500 beds and beyond. And then when you want to start such a business, you must look for a suitable location. Mostly, location, the advice is that you go and locate where you will not be environmentally disturbing all the household people. If you have houses around you where you feel your location is, it may not work well for you to start with, because you will start getting complaints from your neighbors that the poo of the beds are disturbing them, and therefore they will write petition and they will go into loggerheads with you, and you will, instead of putting your mind on your business, your mind will now be divided between trying to satisfy your neighbor and also trying to do your business. So your location is key. So once you get a good location, and preferably it should be a little bit far away from where people live presently, because you see, development comes around where they have allocated for industrial. Let's look at Agidingbi in Lagos. It's an industrial area, but development has met with the industry, and so the industry sometimes pollutes the environment, and therefore people get sued and all those things around them when those factories are still 100% in operation. Just like that, it is like that also in poultry, that when you site your poultry house away from where people live, it gives you longer time for you to be able to maximize your own investments, in terms of, before people start building around that place, it will take some time and you will have maximized your investment at that time. So when you talk about location, suitable locations are normally far away. People say farming is supposed to be in bush. Yes, poultry farming also supposed to be in bush before, because you can manage your waste and the environmental challenges that you may have during your operation. So when you are able to scale through that location successfully, then you will now decide what kind of farming in terms of poultry that I want to do, whether it's for meat or for eggs. And majorly, those are the ones that people practice a lot in Nigeria. Though we have, for meat, we have turkey, we have guinea fowl, and the rest. While we have for egg, we have also layers of different types and shapes. So, but you will want to decide which one you will start with first. It's not that you can't do all at a time, but it's advisable for you to start with one and master that experience very well, because there are challenges on the way. So you need to start little and then move along as you get experience in the poultry business. So when you are talking about meat means that you want to just rear those birds for them to slaughter and sell. Then the other one is producing egg, and at the end of the laying period, you also said sell the birds and a continuous sales of the egg daily. When we talk about the farming, poultry farming and business, there are two things. You could have mastery of the poultry business, but you don't have mastery of the business itself. So the two of them have to be in tandem with each other. You cannot produce where you cannot sell. So you need to be able to produce and be able to get your produce into market. Therefore, your location and the availability of market or people that will be able to move your produce to market should also be a thing that you need to look into before you site your poultry into a certain location. So, because if you go into thick forest and then you site your poultry into that place, yes, you have a longer time in terms of your investment, but how do you move your produce to the market? It's going to be a challenge, because definitely government will not come and do road because of you there, except it's a government settled area that they have allocated for poultry, that they will have done road to that place. But if you are starting as an individual, you need that particular knowledge to know that both the market and your location must have lines that you can cross, so that easily you could move your produce to market. Let's give an example. If you produce like 200 crates of egg a day, and there's nobody coming to buy it, after 1 month or 2 months, the egg starts spoiling. Therefore, your produce did not get to market, but you have incurred loss already. So in that aspect, you must be able to match up with your location with what you want to produce. If you have got that one right, I would say it's a 50-50 chance for you to get both very near each other, but you could still get if you do your thorough research very well. The other one is people see poultry business as very challenging. Yes, it is, and is on the other side, it's also lucrative. But you can't start a poultry business today and expect profit in the next 3 to 6 months, especially when you are starting from the scratch. It will take you a minimum of 2 years for you to get yourself a little bit stable to get the business in front. So what I mean by that, if you want to start a poultry business and let's say narrow it down to egg production, it means that you will get a bird that will lay, and then you will sell your egg, and you will continue to feed them until maybe 1.5 years or 2 years, depending of how you rear them when they were very young. And that is the one I want to come to now. When you want to go into poultry, I will advise that you brood your chicks yourself. What do I mean by that? Chicks are the one that is hatched from the egg. So what you need to do is to make sure that you raise them by yourself so that you can monitor the sequence of treatments that you need to give to them before they get to adults. And adult means between 16 to 18 weeks for egg laying chicken. For between 16 and 18 weeks, they will start laying eggs, depending on how you raise them. That's why I said you need to all understand poultry business. It has this intricacy that if you don't understand it and rush into it, you rush back. So, and you will have lost so much, because the birds, once you stock your pen, birds don't know Saturdays and they don't know Sundays. They will eat 24 hours. They don't want to know whether you are okay or not. They don't want to know whether you have a headache or you are not well. It doesn't concern birds. They will eat 24 hours. It means that if you want to go into poultry business, you must devote your time and be able to make sure that you start little. That's why I said when I started with 5,236 beds. Was a much, very much. I got to a stage that I was asking myself, who sent me here? So I will advise that you start very little and master the art of poultry business, especially bird laying, which we have narrowed our discussion with today. So when you rear your chicks yourself, you'll be able to monitor, because if you go and buy a point of lay, what we call them point of lay, it means they are about to start laying between 13 to 14, 15 weeks. People will do it in their own farm and they want to sell it to you. But how do you know whether they follow those routine, that sequence of treatment of rearing those birds very well? Some people can be culpable in terms of doing abracadabra, in terms of just saying, yeah, we have done this one, and they record it in their logbook, and then they will sell it to you. And then when you take those birds in, then you start seeing 3, 4, 10, 20 dying in a day. And then you now ask yourself, did these people really tell me the truth? So I will advise that if you are start with a minimum of 100, or if you can go a little bit lower, a 50. That when you rear down one successfully, you will have burnt your fingers along the way, and you will have known how to get your mistake to be corrected. and it will not cost you arm and leg in terms of your investment. So when you start so little, you will be able to understand, because not everything that happens in poultry business that you have somebody to sit down with and tell you verbatim in terms of this number one, number two. No, you will also learn along the way as a hands-on experience that you get. So if you start with a 50 and then you rear them successfully, along the way maybe you lost before they start laying, you lost 10. Let's say 10, and then that's 40 that you have to start laying eggs for you. Then you will understand what goes wrong and what we need to correct along the way. And then the other thing in poultry business is that there are a lot of things that people will tell you along the way, but those things won't work. Those won't work. So you need to get your experience on your own, being able to master it by yourself. So it's not everything I will tell you today that will happen at a go. It's a gradual thing. So as long as you continue to experience and get those things little by little, then you will master the act of rearing birds. Birds are very delicate. They are more than even human beings in terms of their demand. Then how do you now manage the environment? The environment that a laying bird will be must be clean. You must give them clean water, even cleaner than the one you drink. And it must be at a temperature that you will be able to say, just like human being. If you come home now from an hot weather and you come in, you want to drink cold water. You don't want to drink ordinary, because heat has already increased your the body temperature, and you need something to cool it down. Exactly, just like birds too. When birds are in open, they experience stress in terms of heat, and therefore those heat, you can't give them the water that you have exposed to it. You must be able to either get a block inside those water to make sure the water cools down, or you get water dispensing fan to be able to cool the environment, to make sure that they have less heat stress, especially during this period. Yes, before rain started falling in Nigeria here, especially in Lagos. So along the line, you will experience what we call mortality. So you will be prepared for it. So don't let anybody deceive you. There's no way, no matter how your environment is clean, the water you give them is good, you are able to manage their waste, and then you respond to the needs 24/7, you will still have mortality. It's part of the business. So you need to be able to have a shock absorber to know that when a bird dies, it's not a discouragement for you to stop poultry farming. It's not a discouragement. In fact, the less mortality you have gives you hands-on experience on your mastery of rearing birds, because you have a record for those birds. The day you brought them in, what you are giving them, their vaccination, everything that you do with those birds, you must be able to account for it each day. And therefore, even human beings, we also experience mortality, but it's not in the rate at which birds experience mortality. So you must be prepared that the less mortality you have, yes, it's a good sign that you are getting mastery, but don't be confident in yourself and say, because I rear 50 and I got 45 at the end of the day, that means you know a bird. I will tell you categorically that where you buy your bird from, also matters a lot. Also matters a lot. The egg that you are going to, if you are going to incubate and hatch your own egg yourself, where you even buy your eggs from, is also a concern. So you need to understand that there are intricacies on poultry business, and therefore you can't master it in just one day or in 1 year. It's a continuous thing. So you, as you experience this one, you'll be able to guide against it next time, and then reduce the frequency and loss to a certain one that will be able to manage at a particular time. So let's move on to the market side of poultry business. Like I said, your location and the business itself, they are two different things. If you don't have customers to either come to your farm and buy, or you take it to them, depending on the margin you are looking at, then you will not be able to sell your eggs. And therefore, and if you don't sell your eggs between one, depending on the kind of feed and vaccination those birds have taken before they start laying, and continuous managing of those birds, it means the egg can't stay more than a month plus. It starts spoiling. And therefore, the cost of egg and the cost of feed and the cost of managing the whole entire farm, you'll be lost, not only on egg alone, because you will have to pay your attendant, you will also have to buy feeds, and you will also have to manage the waste, and you also have to produce and get light. So when you look at those 5 parameters, if you lose on egg, you have lost all those 5 parameters on those on that production. Therefore, you need a market closer, or customers that will be able to come and pick your egg at daily basis, to make sure that as you produce, you get your money back. Don't let me forget that as you start producing, the money the customer brings for you are the money you are going to use to buy the next day feed. So because you will have expended for you to completely come out from a brooding of chick to 16 to 18 weeks. If you are talking about 50, with the current situation in Nigeria now, you'll be talking about 1 million plus for them to get to that 18 weeks. If you are talking about the ones I did, then you could be talking about between 12 to 15 million for you to get to 16 to 18 weeks, because you will have to factor in the cost of feed and the payment for your attendance and the cost of producing water, light, and managing waste. So that cost will have will be in that range. So for you to start selling egg, it means that your customer must be, you must have be able to have what they call it, managing cash. You must be able to manage your cash, because you need to buy feed, you need to buy medication, and you need also to make sure there is water, and there is light, and also the attendant is well remunerated, so that he will be alive to his duty. So when you talk about marketing, marketing is key to your survival as a poultry farmer, because you need to sell. If you don't sell, you're not able to get money back into your coffers, and also be able to buy feed. Like I said earlier, birds eat 24 hours. So they don't know Saturdays or Sunday. They don't go to church or go to mosque. They will eat and drink. So you will be prepared for them as soon as you start the poultry business. Let me stop here before we go further, and then let's see whether we have questions from the audience.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Please, if you have questions, please do also raise up your hand. If you have questions, please let's raise up our hand. Okay. So, sir, please, I have a question. You said something about the mortality, that there's nothing we can do. There will surely be deaths. But how do I then measure that, okay, this is as a result of my own carelessness or negligence or ignorance, or this is because it must just happen?
Okay. Thanks for that question. It is sometimes when you look at the mortality, we also take our beds to lab to know what caused the death, because if you don't quickly check, you might have multiple mortalities, and in a sweep, the whole bed can be lost, a whole. That's why I said we should start small, so that you will not, your investment will not go down the drain. It's a very tricky, I will tell you the truth, it's a very tricky business. So if you take it to lab and the lab examine it and said, maybe because of the water is contaminated, it means you have to flush that water out quickly to save the other beds. If it is maybe an attack by either snake or rats, because where you rear beds, there is possibility that there will be snake, because snake also like to eat chicken and egg. So they might find themselves there, and rat is your next neighbor. So if there is maybe during the night, there is an attack, an infection came in, that may also be detected in the lab. But sometimes, like I said, heat stress can also cause death. Even food that you give to them might be contaminated. All those ones can be examined and diagnosed, and then results can be given to you. So what I'm saying invariably is that even you cannot eliminate all these things. It's not possible for you to eliminate everything at a go, because when you are starting a business, there will hiccups a period, teething period, that some things that you don't know, and it is not things that they will tell you. Like I said, everything will not be explained to you at a go. It's gradually that you learn all those things. Even if you went to the best school of farming, poultry farming, you still get some teething period. So that teething period are the period that you are not aware of such things. When I got into poultry, I didn't know that feed of chicken can be contaminated. It was when I started experiencing some death that they took it to lab and said that feed is contaminated. And that feed can be contaminated from your seller. The people that sold those feed to you, it may have been contaminated by rats going into that storage area and eat part of it, and they still sell those feed to you. Already the feed is contaminated, and by the time you give it to your chicken, because let me tell you, the chicken that we rear in the cage or free range, they are not as strong as our local chicken. Those local chicken that you know when you are growing up have resistance to sickness, to diseases, than these ones that we rear commercially. So that's the difference between the local one that they just throw on the field, and he finds his way eat. You don't even need to give the chicken food to eat, and then come back to your wherever you are provided for it, and then sleep, and then the next day they do that. Is like an orphan that is just fending for itself. But this one, you bought it with your money, and is not as, in terms of disease resistance, they are not as resistance as the local one. So when you are talking about commercial farming in poultry, it is expedient for all of us that want to go into the poultry to learn those things bit by bit before we go into those poultry. And also, I will also advise that people who go into poultry should go and learn from one person or the other. Maybe you do an attachment with somebody to understand the intricacies, because those things cannot be discussed. It's because I'm discussing it practically because it's what I do every day. So I understand, but you that are going to do it, you need to understand it from people's perspective. And therefore, you can align yourself with one person or the other to, or maybe for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, or 6 months before you start your own, so that you will see what they are facing, and then you'll be able to prevent or reduce it when you start your own. So it's compared to what you asked, the question you asked, that is there no way for you to prevent? Yes, you can prevent, you can reduce the mortality. But in terms of 100% that you took 50 birds and then you rear them to adults, it's very difficult. Very difficult. I've not seen anybody doing it, but it's still possible, but it's very difficult.
Thank you very much for that clarity. Okay, is there any other question before it continues? Okay. For now, there's no questions, sir.
Okay. Okay, so when we have gotten all the information about starting your own business in poultry, I will, like I said to that question, I will first of all advise that we do a training, to be a trainee under somebody. If I know, I will have done that before I start poultry business. If I have done that training under somebody that's already established, then I will have known those things that were problems when I started. But I will advise the younger ones coming behind to try and learn, try and go. Apart from going for training in a classroom, go to the field and understand what we call poultry business and how does it really work. So my advice is for all of us to look for 1 or 2 people that we can train under and then get some knowledge before we go into poultry business, because like I said, you could come out victorious and you could come back losing all your investment at a go. So in between, if you are trained, then you'll be able to minimize your loss. Even if you find yourself in a loss. But I will also advise that if you don't love poultry business, don't go into it. Don't go into it, because when you experience one downtime in terms of the business, you may want to quit immediately, and you may not even spend more than a year before you quit. But if you are a fighter, if you are a risk taker like me, you will still want to forge ahead. Yes, I may be down today, but I know that when I stand up, I'm going to stand up in big form. So for me, it is that love that is keeping me in poultry business. You will also understand that today we started, egg is now from farm now is 3,005 as at last week, as at Friday. What will happen on Monday, I don't know, depending on the feed that we buy. So at this moment, most farmers are not able to cope in terms of the rising cost of the feed and other implements that we use in poultry business. And so most of them are quitting. And that's the reason why I said you need to learn or train under somebody. It's very expedient and it's advisable to do so that you will not burn your fingers. So the other one also is for you to be able to know the season. There is also season in poultry. There is what we call egg clots. Egg cloth. You have more egg, but less buyer. So you have more eggs in the farm, but you cannot sell all of them. At that period, some people go so that they would not, the whole environment will not be polluted, because most of eggs got spoiled during that period. These are information that nobody will tell you before you enter into poultry business. But because of this, our discussion, I need to open up and let us know that we are not just going, every business have its intricacies. But for that poultry business, these are the things that people will not ordinarily tell you. Nobody told me when I was getting into poultry business. Nobody told me. But I got into it and I started finding out that there are seasons in poultry. Most especially when students are on holidays. During that holiday period, there are always egg gluts. And a lot of eggs are produced in the poultry, but less buyer. Not because they are expensive. I'm not talking about this season that things have skyrocketed, but I'm talking about seasons in poultry. So those are periods that you will experience during your farming period within poultry. So I will employ us also to study the season also, so that we will know. Because when you want to start egg producing poultry farm, then you must know the quantity of birds that you need to stock per time, that you'll be able to manage. You'll be able to manage. I'm talking from experience, from what happened to me when I started the poultry business. So you need to know per time how many laying eggs I want, laying beds that I want to stock, so that during that period of egg gluting, you may not expend egg gluting in your own farm, because the little you are producing, people are buying it. The little you are producing, people are buying it. So for that reason, you need to know the numbers. Then when we are talking about poultry, we have to be talking about egg laying, bed laying egg alone. But let's talk about the one that you produce for meat. Majorly, we have broiler, we have cockerel, we have broilers, we have turkey, we have guinea fowl, all those ones. Those ones, for me, if I want to advise anybody want to go into farming, I will advise you to go for meat producing beds first, instead of going for egg producing beds. Why did I say so? Because number one, you will eliminate egg glut. Egg glut, G-L-U-T, glut. You will eliminate that one because you are not producing egg. That's number one. The second thing is also that you rear your chicken to a certain weeks, and you can kill it and store it by yourself. You can reduce your investment also on the meat producing chicken. You can maximize, like we said, maximize your investment at that time, because when you rear a broiler, which is a fast growing bird, you can rear broiler for 8 to 10 weeks. They are ready for the market. And even if you don't get somebody to come and buy it, you can kill it yourself and store it and preserve it. So it will reduce your feeding, because the more you continue to feed, the more your profit is going. And if you are talking about the ones that look like our local chicken, which is noila, is more disease resistance. That one takes between 0 to 6 months. Well fed, they will be like our local chicken, but they are hybrid too. So those ones, as soon as they get to the targeted weeks that you want, then you can kill it also if you don't get buyer and store it. It means that what you will now invest your money on will be maybe a cold room or a freezer so that you can store it. Once you have constant light, you can preserve chicken for long. And that will maximize your profit too. Because at the time you kill it, you have stopped investing on feed. So your money is not, and if you want to take a break for those meat producing, you can take a break. But for egg producing, until 1.5 years, you cannot take a break. So you can see the difference now. So for any young man or young woman going into farming, I will advise that you go for meat producing chicken first. Once you master that one, you can now go into egg producing chicken. So the bet that you will store is quite different from the bet you will store when you want to produce egg. So for that, you will be able to manage your resources and also be able to maximize your profit and your investment, so that at the end of the day, you understand what you call a business. Don't go into beds that produce chicken at a go when you are a new farmer. That's the advice I will give on this platform. Don't go into it. Very risky. Very risky. So you need to get this understood very well. Because once you start with meat producing, you also know the ones that resist disease resistance. You'll be able to monitor the environment. You'll be able to manage the waste. You will be able to know your shortcomings, and then you'll be able also to prevent any other things that you don't foresee coming your way in that business. So for me, I would strongly advise that we go into meat producing. And meat producing, you also have the season. If you work within the season, you will also be able to start and stop. That one is very easy. You can start and clear out your beds during maybe Christmas, Easter, Ilea, and any festive period that you have. That's why I say it also have a season. So you need to also know that when you need to stock and when you need to dispose. So if it's a meat producer, it's easy for you to be able to do such and be able also to be able to say, okay, let me have 2 weeks or 3 weeks before I start another one. Or let me target during Christmas. I want to produce 1,000 beds. I want to go to market with another 1,000 during Easter. I want to go to during Ilea, during all the festival. So that's why I say they have season. So you must also understand the season when you want to go into that meat producing beds. So for meat producing, 2 ways. You can go to market directly or store for market to come and meet you. But for the other one, if you don't go to market, you will not be able to. And those ones, if you don't, even if you miss a day in terms of their feeding, you still have assurance that your birds will not die. But if you miss a day in birds producing poultry, it means that you will not have any egg. That one is 100% sure for you that no egg you produce the next day. So that's the difference that you can see in those two. So, and there is no break until when the cycle round. Cycle round means 1.5 years or 2 years, depending on when you brood them. So for now, I think I'll wait for people to ask questions because I've already talked about both the birds producing egg and the birds producing meat. And I've also tell you the intricacy, the disadvantage and advantage of one over the other. And also I've advised that young people going into poultry should start with meat producing first. And then in the beginning I said, you must love poultry business for you to go into it. It's not about just business alone. You must love it. Then the business aspect now comes in after you have established your poultry. So I want to thank you for the listeners. So if you have any question or you are not clear about one thing or the other, you could still ask me.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much for this wonderful session. Please, let's give a thumbs up. Let's say thank you. Drop in chat box. But someone drop a question, sir, while people are still thinking about if they have a question. He said, sir, do you offer paid training or mentorship?
No, I don't offer paid training, but I can do mentorship for people who I see that they have that likes for poultry business. I can do mentorship for them, and then they can do the practical too. But I don't charge anybody, because we need more people to come into this business. But we need to let them know the disadvantage and the advantage, so that they will not just go there with all their resources and get their fingers burnt.
No. Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Is there any question? If you have questions, please do want to raise up your hand. Ask. Okay. I don't think there's any other question. So thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. Thank you for shedding light to the opportunities in the agriculture sector when it comes to poultry farming. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So please, let's unmute our mic and let's say a big thank you to Engineer Kayode. Please unmute your mic.
Thank you so much, sir. God bless you, sir.
Thank you for dropping the chat
Thank you.
box.
God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
for the
sir.
presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so thank you so much, sir. We are very grateful, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you too. Thank you too. Thank you. I appreciate if we have anybody that is muting the idea of going to poultry, and if they let you know, we can mentor them and then get their own idea of going to poultry. Then we could talk along the line. We could do physical, we could do virtual, depending on the availability, because of the time. So it's available, because it's much better for us to get our younger ones